Dr. Kysh, thank you for being here today. Please tell us about who you are. What department are you in? What is the position you hold? And how long have you been with San Francisco State University?
Hello, I'm Judith Kysh, really Judy, and I'm with two departments, secondary ed and mathematics. I've been at San Francisco State since 2000, and in the secondary ed department, I teach future high school teachers, credential students in the single subject credential. In mathematics, I teach future elementary teachers mathematics, and I work with graduate students in math, teaching a course that helps them to teach our remedial courses, Math 60 and 70, and other courses up through calculus. In secondary ed, I work with students in two master's degree programs, the Secondary Ed Masters and the Math Education Masters. And those students are usually in-service teachers. Also in mathematics, I work with graduate students in mathematics who have an interest in education.
Professor, what are your interests? Please describe the critical issues in education that motivate you and the impact those issues have had on your work.
My main interest from the time that I started teaching high school is the teaching and learning of mathematics. And from the very beginning, or at least from the end of my second year, when I thought I had been extremely successful and then reconsidered what students had actually learned, I've been trying to find ways to help teachers, help students learn mathematics with deeper understanding and learn to appreciate the fact that they can reason their way through it. They don't have to memorize a bunch of irrelevant rules. If they learn through problem solving and reasoning, then the math can be useful in the future and it won't be forgotten. So essentially, it's been my lifelong goal to improve the teaching and learning of mathematics. After several years of teaching, I went to the Lawrence Hall of Science, where I worked with the schools in Oakland, particularly Castlemont High School, to guarantee their graduates a better success rate at the University of California. And what I learned I had started teaching in Marin County, but what I learned in going from Marin County to Oakland is that basically what teachers and students need to do, how they need to interact, how the learning happens, is really the same wherever you are. The problem is we're not really doing that anywhere. From that experience, I went to UC Davis, where I worked for 20 years with professional development programs for teachers from kindergarten through the college level, and was instrumental in helping to build the California Math Project for teachers of all grade levels in mathematics. From that project, teachers actually realized they were trying to change the way they taught, but they needed better materials to work with. So our teachers that were involved in the project talked us into getting involved in a huge curriculum project to recreate the math curriculum for algebra, geometry, and algebra 2 in high school. We did that through the CPM program, College Prep Math, and grant money from the state of California, starting in 1989. So this program now has been growing and improving because we now are in our second edition and third editions, growing and improving over 25 years. And we've continued to work with teachers so that we now have several hundreds of teachers nationwide and thousands of students using the materials. This whole development actually fits very well with the new effort towards Common Core standards. And all of the schools now are in a major panic about testing and the changes in the tests. And while I'm not entirely convinced that driving a system through high-stakes assessment is a good idea, it is actually having a positive effect in terms of people thinking about how math is taught. And our materials are right now one of the only tests that really does develop students' common core practices in thinking and reasoning about math. So, teaching and learning math is a major interest. School change grows out of that, because when you change how teachers teach and they become involved in different ways with the intellectual endeavor, things start to change in the school culture. So I'm also very interested in following school change and seeing if it actually is possible to sustain long-term school change. I've seen school change take place over a 10-year period. Deep school change, but not lasting school change. So a major question of mine is, can we sustain school change in positive directions?
Dr. Kysh, can you please take a moment and tell us about the research methodologies that you have used and why?
Most of the research that I've done has been in classrooms and with students in terms of their response to different approaches to teaching and learning mathematics. And for that reason, I'm really most interested and have used qualitative or anthropological methods of immersing myself in the classroom and recording students at work, answering and talking about and responding to each other about mathematics. So a combination of methods actually is probably best, because in addition to in-classroom observation of what is really happening with students, what are they thinking, how are they reasoning, how do they figure out the problems that they're working on, how can we design those problems better, which is all based on observation of their responses through video, audio, or just recorded notes. There's also assessment. And so I'm interested in the whole assessment area in mathematics, but pretty much outside of the standardized assessments. Because it seems to me there are standardized assessments in general have not measured the depth of what students know and can't capture how they learn. So the kinds of assessment methods that we use are interview, again, observation, also written work where we ask students to explain their reasoning, always show their work when they're working out a problem, and give them situations in which they can make more choices, where we record how they make their choices and the basis for their judgments on in pulling together summaries and things like that. So essentially my interests in research are from a qualitative stance. Also though, it's helpful, descriptive statistics are very helpful. And there's definitely a place for creative use of descriptive statistics in describing a classroom and what goes on there. And I'm very interested and have fun with making different kinds of graphs and diagrams that illustrate relationships. So for research methods, qualitative is my emphasis. I have a background in mathematics, so statistics I will do when I see that it's necessary, but I think you learn more from qualitative methods. And the wonderful thing about educational research for me is that whenever you dive into it, you end up with more questions than you started with. But they're better questions. So we're always learning, and we're going to continue to learn.
Professor, what is your experience working with doctoral students? What types of roles have you performed in the EDD program, such as teacher, chair, member of committee?
So far, I've only had the opportunity to work with one doctoral student in the program, and her study actually was analyzing a large body of data that followed students who, some of whom took algebra in the 8th grade in a tract situation, and others of whom in a situation where all 8th graders took algebra. it was a combination of a large amount of data and then a follow-up set of interviews that had some interesting results. I have worked with the doctoral program before this program, joint program at UC Berkeley, where I taught a course in math and science curriculum for people who were getting their EDDs, and most of whom were in administration in the Bay Area schools. So I've had that experience and opportunity to teach a class. I actually wish we had a class like that in our program here. I hope to work with more doctoral students as a member or chair of their committees. I enjoy the work and I look forward to it.